Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm Kerri. Today I'll be showing you how to make this flower. I've been using this flower to go on granny squares to make a blanket, and I'm also making a cushion. I used 8-ply wool, which is light worsted in the US and DK in the UK. I've got my yellow for the centre, blue for the petals and a green for the leaves. I've got a 2.5mm crochet hook, a darning needle to weave in my ends, sewing thread and a needle to stitch the leaves on, and my scissors. I'm starting in the centre, so I've got my yellow. I make a magic loop. I work one chain and work 8 single crochet into my circle. A single crochet, you put your hook into your circle and pick up a loop and bring it through, yarn around and through both loops. It's called a double crochet in the UK. So we need 8. We've done 1, so 7 more. Now we pull our circle tight and slip stitch into our chain. So we put our hook into the chain, pick up a loop, bring it through and through our other loop. For row 2 we start with 1 chain and we work 2 single crochet into each stitch around. So we'll have 16 single crochet. So we put our hook into our first stitch, bring up a loop, yarn around and through both, hook in, pick up a loop, yarn around and through both our loops. So we'll work 2 single crochet into each stitch. At the end of the row, we slip stitch into the first chain. And fasten off. And that's the centre of the flower done. I'll just weave in my ends and I'll be back. I'll start on the petals now. So I've got my blue. Now you can join anywhere on the centerpiece, but I like to join in the stitch after the join of the centerpiece. So in this stitch here, I put my hook through and I pull through a loop. Now I've got a bit of a tail there. I'm going to crochet my tail in. Now I'm going to start with 3 chain, Now I'm going to do a join double crochet into the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. So I put my yarn around my hook, put it into the same stitch as the chain, bring up a loop, yarn around and take it through 2 of the loops, then my yarn around and I put it into the next stitch, bring through a loop, yarn around through 2 loops, yarn around through all 3 loops, and that's a join double crochet. Now we work 3 chain and we slip stitch into the same stitch as the last part of our joined double crochet. So into this stitch, bring up our loop and then through the other loop. Now we slip stitch into the next stitch and work 3 chain, and we're going to work another join double crochet into the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. So yarn around into the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn around through 2, yarn around into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn around through 2 and yarn around and through the remaining 3 loops. Now we do another 3 chain and slip stitch into the same stitch as the last part of our join double crochet. Slip stitch into the next stitch and work 3 chain, and now we work another join double crochet into the same stitch as our chain and the next stitch. And then work 3 chain and slip stitch into the same stitch as the last part of our join double crochet. Slip stitch into the next stitch. We've got 3 petals. We're going to work 8 petals altogether. So another 3 chain and another joined double crochet into the same stitch as the chain and the next stitch. And 3 chain and slip stitch into the same stitch as the last part of our join double crochet. Slip stitch into the next stitch and we'll just repeat our petals. 3 chain, a join double crochet into the same place as the chain and the next stitch. Three chain, a slip stitch into the same place and then slip stitch into the next stitch. So I'll just continue working around. At the end of the row we slip stitch into the bottom of the first petal, just in there. And that's row 1 complete. For row 2 we start with 4 chain and we take our chain through the back and we slip stitch into the bottom of our next petal. Put our hook through and bring it through like that, and then 4 chain and slip stitch into the bottom of the next petal, just that stitch in there. And we repeat that around, so 4 chain and slip stitch into the bottom, that stitch in there, and then continue around. And then for our last slip stitch, we just slip stitch into our first loop, just like that, and that's row 2 done. Now we're going to work into our 4 chain loops. So for row 3 we start with 2 chain, sorry I've lost my stitch, 2 chain, and then we work a double crochet, a treble. For a treble we put our yarn around twice into the loop and we pick up a loop, yarn around through 2, yarn around through 2, yarn around through 2. Now we work a double crochet and a half double crochet. For a half double crochet we put our yarn around and into the loop we're working into, pick up a loop, yarn around and through all our 3 loops, and that's the first petal. Now we slip stitch into our second 4 chain loop and we work 2 chain, work 1 double crochet, 1 treble, 1 double crochet and 1 half double crochet. And then slip stitch into the next 4 chain loop. And we repeat like that, 2 chain, a double crochet, a treble, a double crochet and a half double crochet, and then slip stitch into the next 4 chain loop. And then we just repeat that, 2 chain, a double crochet, a treble, a double crochet and a half double crochet, and slip stitch into the next loop. So 2 chain, a double crochet, a treble, a double crochet and a half double crochet, and slip stitch into the next loop. So I've got 3 more petals to work. I'll just work those. And at the end of the row, we slip stitch into the bottom of the first petal and fasten off. And that's the flower done. Now I start on the leaf. I've got my green and I start with 7 chain. I miss the first chain and I work a single crochet into each of the next 2 chain, a half double crochet into each of the following 2 chain, and a double crochet into each of the last 2 chain. Then I work 3 chain and slip stitch into the last chain where I've worked my last double crochet. And that's the first side of the leaf. For the second side, I start with 3 chain and I work a double crochet into the back of the first chain. So just in here, just there, and I'm going to work up the back. So I work a half double crochet into each of the next 2 chain, just in there. a single crochet into each of the next 3 chain. So one there, one there, and one in here. And now I slip stitch into the end stitch here, just in there. And that's the leaf done. So I'll work 3 more leaves and I'll weave in my ends and I'll be back and we'll put it together. Now, as I'll be using my flower for a granny square, I'm going to be using the 4 leaves, but if you were using it for something else, you probably only need 2 or even no leaves. Now for my first leaf, I'll start it about there. I want it to stick out between the petals, so it goes to about where the petals start. So I'll start stitching about there and go around to about there, just so it sticks up a bit. So I'll do that and I'll be back. Now there's my first petal stitched on. I miss one gap between the leaf and it goes into the second gap. So I'll stitch it on about there. Now I'll just do the same thing. I'll stitch up and then back and around to about there. So I'll do that and I'll be back. Now I've got the 2 leaves on. For the next leaf, I'll miss one gap and it will go in there. And my final leaf will go in here. So I'll have a little square of yellow showing in between. So I'll stitch those 2 on and I'll be back to show you the finished flower. And there's the finished flower, the front and the back. If you like my video, please like, subscribe and share. I'm also on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook and Twitter. The details are in the description below, along with the details of my website. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.